Today's session is going to be with Nadia, who we're so excited to speak to. Laura and I will be moderating this talk. Nadia is a Palestinian-American artist, speaker, and chef who creates mediums and cultural spaces. Nadia's work focuses on amplifying diasporic voices, and she tries to bridge cultural connections between East and West by creating healing spaces. So perfect for our theme. Nadia has an amazing show called Tahtin, which you can find on YouTube and on Instagram. And Tahtin is a cooking show which celebrates Palestinian cuisine and culinary wisdom, both focusing on the heritage aspect, but making it accessible to Palestinians and others in the diaspora who also want to explore their cuisine. Nadia teaches cooking, and she also holds meditation workshops that empower others with intuitive nourishment in all facets of life. In addition to that, if that's not enough, Nadia is also a cinematographer, and she creates visual art collages, and she's worked with various organizations such as the UN Women's HeForShe, a Jewish Voice for Peace, and NYC's Partnership for Afterschool Education. So thank you so much, Nadia, for joining us.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's joining us today from wherever you are. I was really honored to be asked to be part of this event and this series. I think that it's really perfect for what so many of us need right now, is really different ways of healing and giving ourselves the space to love ourselves and take care of ourselves more, as we're going through a lot of changes in the world and a lot of big things happening. And so I was really excited when Farah and Lara reached out to me for this. I always love to start workshops or any sort of group events with a short meditation to ground us all in the space together and to really just set us off on a really good note of being very centered and very present and here together. So I'd like to lead us through a very simple 3-minute breathwork meditation. Breathwork is a really powerful way for us to, it's a tool that we have, our breath, that we can use to change our brain's perspective from one place to another place. We can very quickly access a place of grounding and a place of peace within us by using different forms of breath work. And there's so many different ways that we can do it. So today I wanted to lead us through one together. So wherever you are, if you can just sit in a comfortable position, a meditative position, somewhere where if it's comfortable for you, you can sit with your back up, back straight, where you feel supported, where you feel safe and comfortable. And just take a moment here. You can place your hands in your lap or on your knees, like this if you wish, whatever feels good to you. And let's just take a couple deep breaths together, and then I'll lead us into the meditation. Sit tall and inhale. And exhale through the nose. Really just starting to tune into our breath. Inhale through the nose. And exhale through the nose. One more time. Deep breath in through the nose. And exhale through the nose. So over this 3-minute meditation, we're going to put our hands thumbs up like this, knuckles together, and thumbs are touching. So you're holding it just like this, and you're holding them just right in front of your heart here. And you're sitting up tall. Your eyes are gazing down at your thumbs. So you can pull your neck back a bit just so you don't fall forward, but just keep your eyes open and looking down at your thumbs. And you're going to breathe in this circular pattern. We're going to breathe in through the mouth, exhale through the nose. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the mouth, exhale through the nose. And we're going to continue in this simple cycle, and just keep your eyes focused at your tips of your thumbs, and let your breath be like waves on the sea, and just allow yourself to breathe deeply in that pattern. We're just going to sit here for 3 minutes. So just sit in that breath. We've already begun. And give yourself the gift of this moment of peace for you with this breath. Let your breath crash like waves on the sea. Halfway there, really deepen the breath. The deeper the breath, the deeper you welcome the healing into your body, your own healing energy. Wherever you are, inhale. Stretch the arms above the head. Stretch, stretch. Feel like you're touching the sky and the stars. And exhale. And just shake your arms out. Shake any tension out of there. Shake your shoulders a little bit. Shake your neck. And very good. Beautiful work. Thank you so much for joining me in that. That's a really beautiful meditation, I find, to give yourself a feeling of self-love, of compassion, of softness. It kind of opens your heart to receive that from yourself. And so just a very beautiful meditation. I like to do it for 11 minutes a day. If you like it, you're welcome to try that. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Nadia. That was amazing. It was a great way to start today's session. I really want to know more about Sahtain. Can you tell us how you started it?
Sure. So Sahtain is my online cooking show that I started about 4 years ago. It started from a place of wanting to share this recipe, fatit batinjan, that I made for all my American friends and they were obsessed with. And I just felt like I already had a YouTube channel and I just thought it would be fun to make the video. with my friend Sarah. So we just took an evening, one camera, shot the episode, and it ended up having an incredible response. And ever since then, I've just continued to put out recipes from my family, recipes that I had adapted from traditional recipes to make them accessible to me. And what I found was that there was just this need and this craving from so many people, so many young Arabs in America, who were a lot of the people who watched my videos, who just really wanted to connect with their family and connect with their food and their heritage, but needed support in doing that. And I found that this series gave people the space to learn these things, and to those who were unfamiliar with our food, it gave them a really open door into our food. And what started as just wanting to share the recipes became about something a lot bigger than that, and about how this food has the capacity to heal us, and how we have the capacity to heal ourselves and others around us through this food. You know, I started this series a few years ago, but before that, I grew up in the States, and I had just gone to college, and I was living away from my family for the first time, and I wasn't eating the foods that I was growing up with. And my body and my emotional health and my spiritual health was just off. Something didn't feel right, and something was missing. And so I taught myself, I learned how to make all of these dishes. And long story short, it became a necessity for me, for my own life. And then it became something that I could offer to others and share with others. And that's been a really beautiful experience. So Sahtain is on YouTube and Instagram today. And we share a number of recipes and inspire others to be creative in the kitchen.
That's amazing. I really love that. And I love your videos. I think they're very honest and organic and natural. And it's interesting because I think in our culture, or at least when you feel that you're part of the diaspora, you're far away from home, there's sort of the sensation that the food is almost like a treat, and you get to have it only when you go to your parents' place or someone from the family, or like you're in a special gathering. But in reality, it should be something that's a little bit more accessible than that. And for me, that ties in very much with the idea of healing, because it's how you establish your daily healing practices, right? And your daily nourishing habits as well. So can you tell us a little bit about how you integrate some of your nourishment and into some of that nourishment and cultural heritage at the same time? And what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, the more I learn about Palestinian food and the more I learn about the history and the wisdom behind it, I'm just there's so much ancient wisdom to be learned, and there's so much to dig into. Like, we have such a beautifully diverse food and cuisine, and what's something that's so beautiful about it is that it is rooted in, and it has continued to be, because Palestinians are so connected to our land. Like, that's just a huge part of our culture as a people, is that we are so connected to land and connected to earth. And our food reflects that, in that you go to different regions in Palestine and people will make very different things based on what we're able to grow, what we're able to catch. And it's really beautiful, because that way of life is that way of respecting land and living from the land that we are living on, and curating what we eat based on what we're just able to find. That's something that really is an important theme for people all over the world today. And you know, when we think about the environmental impact, and when we think about our personal choices and how our personal choices make a difference in the world, you know, where we choose to buy our food, where we choose to spend our money to buy our food or whatever it is we're buying. You know, that's just an energy exchange. Money's just an energy exchange. When more of us put our energy toward the local sources of produce, of meat, we are giving energy and giving support to those spaces and that idea of connection with the land that we're on. And so for me, as somebody who is living outside of Palestine, living in diaspora, grew up outside of Palestine, I take these ways of being and these ways of looking at my food and the world, and I carry it wherever I am. And that's been a huge part of the healing process and of still feeling connected to my culture and who I am, and also connected to the land that I'm on. So I live in the Northeast. I live near New York. And so, you know, what's really beautiful about the place that I'm in is that I'm able to access a lot of these same produce, a lot of these same foods that I would be able to access were I in Palestine. And so when I'm here and I can make a conscious effort to eat locally, to support farms near me, to carry on that spirit, that to me is very Palestinian. That way of living and that way of supporting local farmers and learning about the land that I'm on is very, very Palestinian. And so there's just so many things within our cuisine and our culture that I feel are just ancient pieces of wisdom that we can carry wherever we are. And what I found is that so many people connect to that. So many people connect to those ideas and also just connect to our cuisine because it is so universally adaptable to different tastes and different dietary needs. And what another beautiful thing about it is that it is made differently from household to household. You know, like the way I make matlube or malfouf is going to be different than the way someone else's mom or brother or sister makes it. And that's a really beautiful thing, is that we adjust it to what is right for us and what is right for our homes. So I know that I touched on a lot there, but I think that there's just so much to learn from our cuisine, not just on a physical nourishment level, because yes, it makes our bodies feel amazing. Yes, it's so wholesome, and it's so easy to adapt it to the seasons and to what is good for our bodies. But also, you know, these themes that and this type of energy we put into it carries into just the way we live our lives as well.
Since you grew up in Connecticut, how was your relationship with food from the start? Because there was no major Arab community that you were surrounded by, and your introduction to our culture was predominantly from your family.
Yeah, I was born in Florida, moved to Connecticut, grew up mostly in Connecticut, and we really didn't have any Arabic community around us. No Palestinians, no Muslims. It was really like it was that thing, that line in America where the mom's like, when you are in this house, you are in Palestine. Like that was really the heart of that's where it all came from for me. And I mean, alhamdulillah, my mom put so much effort into making sure my sister and I learned Arabic and could speak Arabic, and also that we knew where we came from and we knew our food. And so I grew up eating all of the tabikh, all of these beautiful stews and dishes were just the way that I loved to eat, the way that I felt good. And I was actually a very, very picky eater as a kid. I didn't eat a lot of like American like favorite foods and things. I like did not eat, or I refused to eat. I just was so fixated on these flavors and these dishes. And you know, I think it really instilled a sense of home and a sense of grounding in me that I just needed when I was so far away. You know, like my moments of being around a big group of Palestinians was in the summers when I would go visit my family in Amman. So, yani, thank God I was able to go every summer when I was young and visit my family in Amman for like 6 weeks. And then I would just get this like taste of the culture and being with my people. And I would carry that, I would take that and go home and carry it with me for as long as I could through the year. And now that I am in New York and I've found communities, I found Palestinian communities that I love, I found connection with other people in this way. It's been incredibly healing to not feel alone. But growing up, it was definitely hard. I was the kid who had za'atar sandwiches for lunch at the elementary school, and kids would be like, "What's that? It's weird. What is that food?" I'm like, you don't get it. Don't worry about it. You don't understand. But yeah, and that was really a part of my journey of starting to cook these things when I moved out and I have my own kitchen. And I could not go on not knowing how to make these foods and not being able to create the atmosphere of being at my sitto's house, in my house. That was really where it started for me. I wanted to walk into my kitchen and be able to smell sitto's house.
Thank you so much for that answer. That's really honest, and I think it's interesting because it speaks to the Palestinian experience, but also just the diaspora experience at large. I mean, I think part of the pain and the difficulty of not living at home or not living in a land that's yours is feeling some sort of isolation or a little bit bizarre in terms of what you're eating, and that being different to the community around you. But the other interesting thing is that we're also to some extent deprived of the opportunity to allow our food to evolve. I mean, that's a natural part of any culture. Things evolve and things change over time. And so how do you create space for that in your kitchen and in your experience? And how do you allow your food and your creativity to mesh together?
You know, I think that it was really, it made sense for me from the beginning that things could be flexible and things could be, that really there was room for creativity within our food. So, you know, my mama, she moved to the States for college, and when she was first making food for me and my sister when we were young, you know, she wanted to make all of these Palestinian dishes, but she would find ways to make them either a little easier on herself or adapt them to the ingredients that she could find. Like mama makes kusa mahshi, but we usually can't find the little gray squash that you find in the Middle East. So we would get big zucchini, like big yellow zucchini squash, and she would make it that way. So I grew up with this idea that our food was adaptable, and that we also, you know, it was, for me, it's a foundation that I have. It's a foundation of these incredible dishes and flavors and ways of preparing foods. And, you know, I think it's important. I think it's important for us to allow ourselves to be free and creative with it. I think that, you know, I talk to a lot of young Palestinians who watch my videos, who are making these dishes for the first time ever and are just so proud of themselves when they execute it. But that I talk to a lot of people who are afraid to even try because they can't get this ingredient, or they don't have this specific utensil, or they're just afraid that they're going to mess it up. They're just afraid they're going to do it wrong. And for me, I think it's really important to free ourselves from this mindset that we're going to do it wrong. You know, any type of cooking, any type of execution of something like this, it takes practice. Maybe you won't get it on the first try exactly how you like it, but it's being willing to try and to give yourself the space to try and to have whatever experience you have of it, that I believe connects us more to our core and ourselves and gives us space to explore these parts of ourselves. You know, I get I get sometimes comments on my YouTube videos, not sometimes, I get them a lot, of people being like, you did this wrong. Like, mama, my mama does it like this. Like, she fries it, she didn't roast it. And I'm like, that's great. That's good. That's like, that's what I want to stress, is that like, you don't like, I roast it, you want to fry it, power to you. That sounds delicious. Like, there truly is no right one way of making anything. And wherever we are in the world, for me, being able to carry the traditions and the ways of cooking forward into my life in whatever way I can and whatever is accessible to me, like that is connecting to my core and my people and to my Palestinian heart inside me. And as far as being creative and taking things further and away from the tradition, I think that if anyone should be doing it, it's us. Like, why don't we allow ourselves the space to be creative and to merge ideas? Like, what does the future of our food look like? And how can we carry the traditions and the really beautiful medicinal qualities of our food into the future? Like, how can we carry them and make them more accessible to others? I'm really interested in seeing how dishes can be made plant-based as well. Not because I think they always need to be made plant-based, because I like to offer the option, or sometimes I just like to be able to eat it that way. And for me, I'm not a vegetarian. I still eat meat, but I treat meat as a very like a special occasion, like a really intentional special occasion. So that's just me. But I really enjoy that creative aspect of it, and like creating the same flavors and the same nutritional quality, but plant-based. So I'm really excited about the people who are trying new things. And I try to help spark that in others and help others to feel free to do that as well.
Absolutely. I love that too. And I think that there's definitely kind of a shift in the conversation. It's, where some people tend to feel like we can't change anything because this is our culture and we have to preserve it. But I think that if we're so rigid in preserving it, then it becomes scary and unadaptable. And I love one thing that we talked about before, how food needs to also adapt to different socioeconomic backgrounds. And food itself, culture itself, is so political, and food is not taken out of that conversation at all. I think food is extremely political. You talked a bit about empowerment through food. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, and I say all of this again, I want to stress that I'm a Palestinian living in diaspora, so I can only speak from my experience, and I cannot speak for anyone living in Palestine, only for myself. But I really feel that I think preservation is really important, and there are so many ways that we keep our culture alive and that we preserve our tradition. And I believe that preservation can take the form of honoring and replicating what was, and documenting it, and learning the history and teaching that to ourselves, to our children. And then also that preservation can be carried into new spaces, new ideas, new ways of making things. Like when I adapt a dish to be plant-based, for instance, I'm still preserving my culture. I'm preserving the heart of my cuisine. And I think that, for some of these people who come to the things that I share, for instance, and they're hurt that something wasn't made the way they believe is right, or the way that they read is traditional. I think that fear of change, or fear of opening ourselves, of allowing ourselves to be flexible, I think that is something that only hinders us. Like, we are a people who have been through so much, and our families and our ancestors have been through so much, and so that fear is really understandable. And I think that we really, though, want to operate not from a place of fear, but from a place of empowerment, from a place of really feeling grounded in our culture and our cuisine, and knowing that it stands alone, and we don't need to defend it, because we just need to feed it to someone and they will understand. We don't need to defend ourselves or our cuisine or our culture or protect it from anyone. Like, it is what it is, and it is going to continue to be as beautiful and healing and powerful as it is, because the more that people eat it, they interact with our delivery of it, the more that we will actually like that is translated to people. It's not something I feel like we need to verbally protect or explain. And I mean, obviously our food is being put out into the world and called by names that are not what it is and not where it came from. And for me, I feel that the best way for me to look at that and combat that is to focus on what I want more of in the world, to focus on the people who are doing the work that inspires me, and to focus on lifting up the voices that are inspiring to me and others. And just letting that kind of fall away, because the more people see people like us sharing our heart with the world, that is what people are drawn to. And if someone feels something doesn't come from the heart, or is not genuine, or is not really the core of who that person is, it's just that you feel it. It's a visceral feeling. So I believe that when I focus more on what I want more of, the things that are not important, the things that do not add to the world, will fall away by themselves, because nobody's giving energy to them.
I must admit, I have goosebumps to say that, because it's very true. And I think it's interesting how the same thing can be painful, but it can be healing at the same time. I mean, I've had this experience by myself, walking through New York and London and Paris and big cities and seeing things rebranded or remarketed. It's a painful experience, I think, as a Palestinian, to feel that something so dear and intimate that you have at home and that you grew up with is being almost taken away from you. So I love that your comment is to share it more and open it up, rather than just keep it closed off. So I wanted to ask you about other healing practices that you integrate with your food. So what does it mean to be eating in a way that's full of nourishment?
I really believe that nourishment is a word that does not just exclusively relate to food. We can be nourished in every moment of our lives. We can find nourishment. Everything we see, everything we experience is something we're consuming. And so we can find nourishment in every moment, even the most painful moments. I think that food is a really useful, direct, and simple way to access the deeper parts of ourselves and to begin to heal those parts. So for me, there are, and when I say that there's we can find nourishment in every moment of our lives, that's something that I believe is practiced with allowing space for ourselves to meditate and to be with ourselves, and really learning to come home to ourselves and feeding ourselves. Choosing to put something in our body is a very sacred and very meditative part of our day. I mean, what we eat literally becomes us, right? The things that we consume, literally our cells regenerate with the fuel that we give it. But that's just on a physical level. So of course our food builds us physically and can nourish us physically, but think about how the food that we eat is not only a physical object, it is an energetic object that has had its own experience from the moment it was planted to the moment it was picked to when it was packaged or processed or put in a box, and then you picked it up and put it in your fridge. And every aspect of that journey is part of what you're consuming. So I really like to think of consuming food as consuming information. And what kind of information do I want to put in my body, but not only in my body, in my mental space, in my soul? I read the other day that I think 90 or 95% of the serotonin that we produce in our body is produced in our gut. And so our food has a direct relationship to how we feel emotionally and spiritually. So we have the power to both make choices that will energetically support us, that will make us feel open, but also we as very subtle beings that are affected on a really deep and subtle level by the things we ingest, whether it's things we listen to or things we choose to eat. We have the ability to, as we start to tune in to how different foods and the way we eat them make us feel in our bodies and emotionally, we actually have an opportunity there as well to put our own energetic healing into our food. You know, before we eat a meal, you know, why do we pray or say a blessing before we eat a meal with others? When we speak a prayer or a blessing into the food we eat, when we set an intention for that food to bring us healing, to whether it's to open our hearts or it's to soothe our stomachs or whatever it is, we actually have the power to make our food even more nourishing for us. And so I think that's really all about getting much more intimate with our food and also sitting down to eat. Because when we start to see our meals and anything we consume as part of this whole larger experience of our day-to-day lives, not just fuel in the body, gotta go, gotta move, but it actually fills us energetically and will affect us on a cellular and emotional level, we can start to be really empowered in the choices we make. And when I say choices as well, I in no way believe that there are good foods and bad foods. Like, we attribute value to things that are good and bad, but really everything is just energy and just food and choices. So we get to be empowered in the choices that we make, because the more that we become sensitive to how things make us feel or how things affect the planet, we can just be aware of the choices we make. Like, we can even choose to consume something that we know our body doesn't really love that we eat, but it's really enjoyable in this moment, and I'm going to treat myself and enjoy it and not allow any shame or whatever comes up to be part of this experience. And that's an empowered choice as well. I think it's really about just having a deep relationship with those choices. And that's a very healing process and journey to have.
I love that. And actually, something that you said rings very true. So when I was doing my yoga studies, we learned something in Ayurveda, which is the twin science that comes along with the yoga studies, which is that the whole concept of Ayurveda is actually focused on not what you put into your body. You can pretty much eat anything in moderation, but actually how your body digests it. And that whole process of digestion is a physiological process, but it's also an emotional process, right? Of how you feel, it's what feelings you attach to it. So I love what you just said. It rings very true, and I think there's a lot of evidence that supports that as well. It's just about building that awareness. And so on the topic of awareness and consciousness, how do you gather that information? We're just a bit curious to learn where you learn things and what your sources are and how you build that awareness and how you share that with people. And that can be about Palestinian food and the value of that food and how to eat and how to be.
No, it's been a journey of learning on my own, like I'm really grateful to have been surrounded with and been able to interact with and be inspired by other women and their practices of cooking for their families and the ways that other people interact with their foods. And the more I have conversations with others about it, the more I realize how much deeper of a experience this is for everybody. And when I first started learning about all these recipes, I obsessively watched so many YouTube videos. I have a stack of Arabic cookbooks that I love, probably a bunch of them you guys know here. And when it comes to the energetic healing, there are a number of books that I've read that have really struck home for me and that have taught me so much. And I can share those with you guys as well if you're interested later in some of the books that I love and that I've read. But also, I think a lot has come to me through deep meditation and deep meditation and interaction with my own practices. And through that practice myself, I have seen firsthand just how healing both this food is and this cuisine is, because it just is. It touches the heart so easily. When people who've never eaten it before, they'll eat it and just feel something. And I've seen how when I invoke a very specific intention into the food that I make, I've seen that reflected in the people I fed it to. And the more I learn about it, the more I realize that we're doing this all the time, but maybe on an unconscious level. Like we're doing this with our food, we feed ourselves or people we love. We're already doing this, but we actually, when we start to notice like the power we have within that, that's when magic starts really happening, because then we can play with it. We can be really intentional about it. But it's been a learning journey. I've learned from, there's been many different sources that have kind of come together and taught me this and taught me what I know is true. And it's continuing to present itself to me. It's continuing to teach me more. And so now, as I've been doing some work with sharing this with others and helping others to tap into their sense of intuitive nourishment, recognizing what their body needs at each moment, and then also putting intention into our food and just experimenting with that, it's been really amazing to see the outcomes for people and just how others have been able to open up to themselves in a new way through just thinking about things a little bit differently. I think somebody asked about must-have cookbooks. I mean, I love Judy Kala's cookbooks, of course, like Baladi and Palestine on a Plate are incredible, beautiful books. I just really enjoyed Sami Tamimi's new book, Palestine, his really beautiful one. I have a couple other Jordanian food cookbooks that I've had for a really, really long time, whose authors I can't remember off the top of my head. When I got really into learning about all these different, when I started really cooking for myself, I was learning about all different cuisines and just getting really obsessive over basically wanting to be able to make anything. Like somebody told me make this and I wanted to be able to be like, sure, I can do that. And one thing that I found that I love and I'd love to share is that I saw such a connection with Indian food as well. And I really fell in love with Indian cuisine and the diversity, the incredible diversity and intricateness of their food, and how in many ways I feel that it is very similar, or it really goes well with the ways that we cook as well. And so I have some wonderful cookbooks by Indian chefs that I love. I love Chetna Makan. I love Monica Guarden. And those have also been really, really inspiring to me in my Palestinian cooking as well.
We have a comment in the chat. Ghadir says that she started watching your YouTube channel a few days ago. She loves your spirit and creativity. As a Palestinian mother, it gives her hope that the Palestinian cause will continue through the young generation in many forms, as Nadia is doing it through food.
Thank you. Thank you.
Haider is suggesting a new book called Craving Palestine.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, so I'll look into it. Thank you for that.
Someone is asking what your favorite food-based movies or maybe TV shows are.
Yes. I used to watch, Allah yarhamo, I used to watch Anthony Bourdain a lot because, I mean, if any of you are familiar with him, and I respected him. I respect him so much because the way that he walks into any culinary space, any home, any place in the world, and he walks in, he is completely humbled. He walks in like he doesn't know anything, and these people are about to teach him everything. And I just think that it's such a beautiful way to enter any space, and an attitude I try to carry as well into any new space I enter. I so much love and so inspired by him. I also am a big fan of Top Chef. I love Top Chef, if any of you watch that. It's an amazing competition show where they bring some incredible chefs, really skilled, wonderful chefs, and they do these insane challenges. And it's inspiring to me to watch what they come up with on the spot, because it just gives me ideas for like cool things I could learn how to do as well. And other than that, honestly, I'm really into the YouTube food world. Like there are so many amazing people. Like that's where I really started. I didn't watch a lot of Food Network, but on YouTube, there's so many chefs who are bringing, like for me, I got really into learning about Indian food, right? And there are some amazing Indian chefs on YouTube who are sharing all these dishes that I was not seeing in the mainstream like world of like how we saw Indian food. I was like, wow, this is so unique. This is so beautiful. Like this is so perfect for home. Like what I loved about these people on YouTube is that they're sharing their food without any kind of producers or any other people in power, like telling them what people want to hear. Like they're just sharing what their heart tells them to share. And I was so drawn to all these smaller creators sharing their beautiful cuisine. There's really like a treasure trove of things you can learn and of really cool people to meet in the YouTube food world who are outside of the big money that's put into things like Food Network. So those are some things that really inspire me.
Nadia, if you haven't seen it, and to the audience as well, I want to jump in with a recommendation. It's David Chang's Ugly Delicious. The latest season is amazing because it opens up with an exploration with Indian cuisine and all, and it actually he comes in very similar attitude to what you were describing as Anthony Bourdain, to very openly saying, I don't know anything about it. Please teach me.
Yeah.
And with Levantine foods.
Oh yeah, that's such a good series. I love the episode he did, Dream, the Palestinian chef.
Anissa Helou, the Lebanese chef as well.
Yeah, I love that's a great series. And of course, Padma Lakshmi's Taste the Nation, which is her new show, which is a beautiful show. So cool. Yeah, those I thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, that's another great show that I just like really, really enjoy. Some good stuff out there now. Like newer things are really, really cool right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's next for you? What are your next steps, and where do you see Sahtain going?
So at the moment, we are running workshops for groups and some private one-on-one cooking workshops, which I'm continuing to do and are hoping to expand. But Sahtain as a show is continuing to kind of take a life of its own and continue to grow. And, you know, I am sort of following my nose and following this journey as it is taking me. But I see it being shown to much larger audiences. I see it expanding and being produced on a much higher level for more people to see and more people to learn about our food and the heart of it. So I'm really excited to see where it goes and see where this work goes. You know, I'm so interested in this idea of healing through food and carrying that attitude into all parts of our lives. And so I am continuing to expand on that work and just excited to see how it's growing on its own. So if you want to check out Sahtin, it's on YouTube and Instagram. We've got plenty of recipes and we take requests.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited, and as I'm sure everyone else is, to see what's next for you and to follow Sahtin and Sahtin's journey. Thank you so much for sharing wisdom with us. This was such a lovely conversation.